we know what time it is. It is Last of Us episode 4 recap. We're going to go over the episode in great detail. So King, do you have any opening scenes you want to talk about? Anything in particular that Well, first off, let's just go over the overall narrative. Put it on the balance, obviously, because I don't care what anyone says. I'm still going to compare it to the game. People that sit there, they'll say, "Well, addict, if you wanted to play the game, go play the game." Um, the same people telling me that are the same people that was giving it a pat on its back at the beginning of the show during episode 1 and 2, because they said it was a really good show because it was almost 1 for 1 on the show.
Right.
But then they start gravitating off, and now those same people are telling me go play the game then, addict. So tell me your overall perspective of this episode.
Buddy. All right. So we get a chance to see Ellie starts off and she's messing with her shiny new toy, her gun. And she knows how to pull a gun, she knows how to load a gun, she knows how to clear a chamber. And in these quiet moments you have this perception of what you believe you would do in a given scenario with your gun. So she's playing these scenarios in her head while she's looking in the mirror, but also Joel's out there and she's making sure that he doesn't catch her with this gun. And she tucks it inside a book bag, and they're going in the car and they're going across country. And in the car, she has a book of old dad jokes, and they're playing music and they're driving, and they come to a impasse where they either have to go around, and Joe doesn't want to go through the city, because if they can go straight through this tunnel, they can get to where they're going to go to without going through the city.
You
And
never
going through this,
Every apocalypse world and every movie, every video game, it's almost like a law. Don't go in large areas.
yeah, stay out of areas where people have advantage over you, like they have vantage. The same thing when we play Fortnite. If somebody has the high ground on you, to be honest with you, you're pretty much out of luck. So a lot of times, people will have the high ground, and you want to stay out of those areas. So they get to going, and lo and behold, they run into humans. Now, Ellie has never encountered humans on the outside of the wall, because Joe has been telling her, these are, I mean, the clickers and the infected people are terrible, but the real problem is the humans. The real thing that you have to look out for is the people. And this is the first time they have this encounter. This is also the first time that Ellie has to use her shiny new toy. Um, and there's trauma there. It forms a new trauma cycle there. And she had let something slip to Joe that, this wasn't her first time that she had to do something. And I guess we're going to delve deep into that aspect of it. But you can see Joe and Ellie, because they give jokes back and forth, and you know he's coming around to her. He's warming up to the idea that she's a person and not just cargo, because he called her cargo, and I'm pretty sure that kind of hurt her feelings at that moment. But they're sort of kind of becoming a little tandem, a little bit of a team, and the world is, I guess, is going to where you want it to go to, Attic, as far as start to see more of these encampments, more of these people, more of the stuff that we run from in the video games, and we use our pistols on. So we're starting to get to that aspect of it, and I think this episode um shows what happens to a dystopian society where there's no overarching law, and you have people looking out at one person as like the lawgiver. Because when they got back to the encampment, she was like judge, jury, and executioner when it got to, and I'm talking about the person that was in charge. when it came to deciding somebody's fate, right? Because if I'm correct, that was the only doctor in the town.
Yeah, see that part that logically that made no sense.
Made no
Like,
sense at all.
especially if you survived 20 years in the apocalypse. Let's go ahead and get to the spoiler part.
Right.
We talked about 5 minutes. Let's get into the spoiler part.
No,
Look,
okay, so this is the part of the show is if you didn't see the episode and you're planning on seeing the episode today or tomorrow or whatever, and you just didn't get off of work, I suggest you just run away from this show and check it out on our other channel that you can check out the shorts and you can check out the episode in its parts and pieces, opposed to seeing the whole thing. So you probably don't want to see you, or you probably don't want to hear about the wedding, shotgun wedding. Well, you can just watch the episode of The Last of Us 4 recap. So,
it's
all right,
okay.
buddy, let's go.
The more I watch the show, the less I like it.
Wow.
I felt like the show. First off, the ambush was nowhere like it was in the game.
Right.
The only common thing between that and the ambush in the game is they crash into a store.
Yeah.
Like, because I just they're making Ellie into a crybaby that can't hold her own ground.
Right.
Oh, Joe, get in the wall. Get in the wall. In the game, they pulled Ellie out of the truck. And
Right.
Ellie fought them with Joel. And it's just like, look, like, I get it. I do. I feel like they're doing things this way because they don't want gore in the show for some reason. Because that's the only thing that makes sense to me. Because if you really look at it and you think about it, they haven't really had gore in this whole show.
No.
They haven't had really violence in this whole show.
Well,
Episode 1.
Scene violence. Like a lot of stuff happens off screen.
I see. Episode 1. Grandma ate going chow chow on the dude.
Right.
That's literally the only time you've seen anything like that.
Right.
In the whole show. In a show about an apocalypse, you've seen the zombies, aka whatever they want to call them, infected, fungus infected, I don't care what you call them. They've showed it one time, and we're on episode 5 coming up. This is going to be 5 going into next week.
Right.
Episode 2, they seen a little bit there, but for the most part, it was just Joe punching that dude. You know what I'm saying? They didn't even really show him punching him. It was like one of those things where he threw him over and it pans back a little bit. Yeah. Didn't see it. Episode 3, there was literally almost no violence in episode 3. There was no... This is supposed to be an apocalyptic world, and I don't feel like it's an apocalyptic world.
You feel like Disney made it.
Yeah, actually, now you mention it. It's just like, when I saw that ambush, I'm like, it just feels like they don't... Oh, let me shut this. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it just doesn't feel like they're not trying to put it in a violent tendency. And that's why I personally feel like episode 2, when the infected came in and they kissed Homegirl, that didn't really hit me. But now that I'm thinking about it, why would you change from soldiers coming in there to the infected coming in there?
Right.
It makes no sense. But if you really think about it now, after we've watched a couple more episodes, they're taking a lot of the human interaction out. Like,
because then you would have to have killed the humans. You would have to have shown the carnage on the screen.
Now think about it when Joe has killed people in the show.
I haven't seen it.
He shot someone from a long distance range, and then he shot someone off camera that panned and showed him on the ground.
Right.
And if you go and you look at the actual game, Joe has thrown people into glass, almost decapitated them. Ellie has done the same thing, and they're doing such a horrible job portraying Ellie in this game, in this show. Okay. It's unreal.
So do you think that I felt they Disneyfied it, right? Violence is taking place, but it's taking place off screen. Like when Joe had to kill the guy, I think what was the guy named Ben or something like that was on the floor. Brian, or something, a NPC. And the guy's begging for his life, and he tells Ellie to go inside. Well, he kills the guy, but he kills the guy off screen. Then they bring the body later. So, see, there's ways to tell stories, and there's ways to tell stories to reach a broader audience. I think the story that's being told in the video game is a story that can't be told to everyone. But I think the story that's being told here, it can reach a broader audience without releasing the shock factor. You can still tell the same story without needing the shock factor that you're looking for. And I understand where you're saying, from a purist standpoint, The Last of Us is a dystopian world that is it is black or white. You're either in or you're out. There's really no shades of gray, right? There's this kill or be killed, and this is it. And the fact of the matter, they're not handling like that. They're handling the world as the shades of gray. And I know you're pissed off with that aspect of it because you want the black or white.
It's not that I want the black and white. I want the show to feel like they're in an apocalypse world.
But they were smiling at the end when they was laying in the bed. They was happy when they was going to sleep.
It doesn't feel like this game is not. This game. Sorry to break it to you guys. This show is not supposed to be happiness. Is not supposed to be, grateful. There's times where they get that moment with the giraffe in the game and stuff, but for the most part, this is this is supposed to be a depressing experience. It's supposed to be a very, very down experience. It's one of those things where you're not supposed to enjoy it. It's entertaining you, if that makes sense.
I know what you're talking about.
But because they're in an apocalypse, that's one of the reasons people stopped watching The Walking Dead, because they put to a point in The Walking Dead where it did not feel like an apocalypse anymore. It felt like just unique circumstances going on from point A to point B, and then they would throw the apocalypse in the middle. Like, oh, we'll sprinkle it. There you go. Little apocalypse for you. Little apocalypse for you. Everybody get, no, not you, but you get some apocalypse. Like, the whole show is supposed to be centered around an apocalypse, and this is how these individuals are surviving.
So, how do you feel about the interaction between Ellie and Joel? Like, do you feel that they're growing closer as a team, or he's trying to understand her, or she's getting closer to understanding him as a person?
I think that part they're doing a decent job. Okay. I think they could do better, but I do think they're doing a decent job in that matter. That's probably the only highlight so far of the show. Like, okay. It's gotten to the point where if it wasn't for R&R, I probably would have dropped it after this episode. I wouldn't have watched next week.
I mean, okay, so I will say that this is probably the weakest out of all the episodes. I thought this was the weakest one because it was too much dead space. Like when they drove to the encampment and they went sleeping in the forest, I thought that was dead space. When they were driving, I thought that was dead space.
And if you think about them sleeping in the middle of that, what did that contribute to the story? What did that contribute? Nothing.
Nothing. My wife said, why the hell are they outside and not sleeping inside the car? Like, and I get it. I get the whole thought process to it. I just feel that they Disneyfied it, and HBO is probably trying to reach a broader audience. They're probably trying to reach an audience where you can have 13 and above watching this.
I'm tired of that though, man. I get it and I know why they're doing it. But I'm tired of companies, developers, game developers, movie directors trying to reach your broader audience, so they just screw the entire show up. And look, it's going to be successful. It's Last of Us. The overall narrative is still good. Regardless how you put it, the overall narrative is good. But it's just like, they're in an apocalypse and we ain't seen nothing even remotely violent for the most part.
It felt like apocalyptic.
It really, it feels like one of those scenarios where they're like in an abandoned town. You know what I'm saying?
And what's crazy is, even when she shot the doctor,
they didn't show that.
Camera.
They didn't show that either.
Right?
And this is from HBO.
But
HBO.
okay, so do you think that HBO, there's politics here, right? They're losing to Disney. So do you think that HBO says we have to adopt the Disney way to get a broader audience?
The Disney way is not the reason people are losing to them. They own Marvel. You're not winning against Marvel with just one or two IPs. You can't compete with an engine like Marvel where you can consistently get people to watch something they don't care about because they want the overall arcing storyline that it goes in the existing MCU storyline. I'm tired of people wanting money. People want Destiny money. They don't have Destiny products. People want GTA 5 money. They don't have GTA 5 products. And now people want MCU money, but don't have an MCU product.
I feel you. I
It's like
understand.
they're making it more accessible, acting like that's the reason Disney taking everyone's lunch money. That's not the reason Disney's taking everyone's lunch money.
But it's
The
part
reason,
of the reason.
it is, but it's not. The reason Disney's taking everyone's lunch money is because Disney has spent the past 10 to 15 years building this universe to do what they're doing.
All right, question. As a CEO, you're the CEO of HBO, right? Do you put an R rating and give them the gore and everything and limit your audience? Or do you go with the rating that they have now to get more eyes on the product?
It just depends, okay? Like, if you're looking at like a CEO kind of thing, you know, you do have to look at the overall perspective of the type of content you can provide.
Right.
So if people don't like this, they might not watch whoever the showrunners make the next show, et cetera, et cetera. Look at what you saw when it come to Game of Thrones.
Right.
People pretty much boycotted those showrunners. I know people to this day that won't watch anything those showrunners write because they try to rush the last part of Game of Thrones out to get out. To me, just Last of Us isn't going to get you the kind of success that you want. Sorry to tell it to you. The only type of way that you're going to get that MCU type of success is you have to have an ongoing story arc that other movies and shows build onto.
The Last
kind of like what
2.
DC and Warner Brothers trying to do right now with James Gunn.
But the
They're
Last
in the
of Us
beginning
2
stages.
is going to be in the same universe. They're going to, expound on the universe. They're building something here, and we know with HBO. HBO has they've done The Sopranos. They've done long running shows. They've, like you said, Game of Thrones.
Do you think the reason that they're trying to be as casual as possible is because they know this is a Sony product? This is off a video game that we have. No, hold up. This is off a video game that we have 2 games of, so we have a season 2. We don't know where we're going to go after season 2.
I can tell you why they're not doing anything crazy. It's a child. And a child killing or being threatened in the climate that we're in now doesn't play well.
I feel you.
Doesn't play well. Because they could have did that same scene that you wanted with Ellie fighting for her life and killing somebody. It doesn't play well.
But that's what
That's what they
they're taking.
Up for.
They're taking someone as iconic as Ellie. She was really good in the first one, really good. I think she'll be a lot more aggressive in the second season, hopefully, but because she's older. But they're taking someone that
I would feel like you. And I told my wife, because I showed my wife Abby, I'm going to play The Last of Us 2 and The Last of Us 1 just so my wife can see the game because I like Abby, right? If they mess Abby up, I'm done. I'm done. Like, done.
I guess to me, I'm like, you're taking someone as iconic as Ellie, someone that was very stubborn, but would listen when it counted. Very aggressive, but would be there when it counted. And she was kind of like 100% on the paddle at all times, but she knew when to let the paddle go. And it's like you're taking someone like that. Sure, did she need Joe in a lot of scenarios in Last of Us? Yes, but you could argue that she helped Joe get out of as many issues that Joe helped her get out of. in the game.
Now, let me ask you a
It,
question. All right, because it was a point in that.
Someone, hold on. People keep saying in the chat budget. This is one of the most highly budgeted shows that's
Yeah,
ever
it
been
is.
in TV.
It is. It's kind of crazy. It was a point where she grabbed the knife, or she can grab the gun. In that moment, you knew exactly where HBO was with it. Because if she grabs the knife, you're going to see visceral violence. You're going to see her get her hands completely dirty. You're going to see it, but they chose the gun, and off air shot, pow, one shot too. She didn't shoot the guy in the head to finish
And
him off.
and I know a lot of people that's like hardcore of guns. Like, if you're in a scenario like that and you're inexperienced with guns, she probably would unload the whole clip on him.
Right. So I say this. I feel your intense anger at how they're sissifying Ellie, where she's a stronger character, right?
They're really making her a support character. They
right,
really are, and she's
where
not
she's
a
the main
support
character.
character.
To be honest with you,
Huh?
right? I said she's like the main character. To be honest with you, we see the reasons why. I really believe, honestly, it has everything to do with child violence, and they're not really trying to exploit child violence. So, are we gonna
I
have to
feel
take the
you.
good with the bad? Maybe season 2, but I don't think they're gonna show on-screen violence anyway.
I feel you, but here's my thing. HBO is very known to have violence. They don't care. They had Arya in Game of Thrones killing people, and she was
Yeah,
definitely a kid.
listen, I'm
So
with
so
you.
do you think that is this HBO or is this Sony?
I think it's a bit of both.
I'm thinking it's Sony. I'm gonna be real with you. Like, we've seen them slowly like let up on the violence. I'm really thinking it's Sony because HBO's got no problem putting their characters in that kind of light.
Well, you're right, because in Game of Thrones, when the mountain scorched that guy's head and popped his eyeballs out his head, that was visceral violence. When they burn somebody on camera, when they kill people and they decapitate people, put their head on spikes, that was a visual violence. When they did the Red Wedding and stuff like that, that's visual violence, and that's on screen, happening. You might be onto something, bro. You might be really, really hitting the nail on the head. It might be a Sony, edict that they don't want to have on-screen violence happening, because
It might be Neil. Neil's there on set. Maybe
I don't
he
know.
doesn't want to go in this direction with directing. I don't know. But all I
don't know.
know is
Do you think it's Pascal?
I don't know.
Because
Here's my.
in The Mandalorian, there isn't any violence.
But it's a Disney show, though.
Yeah, but okay. So listen, hear me out really, really quickly, right? Hear me out. He still got contracts to The Mandalorian. That's an infinitely bigger contract than it is for Joe. And he says, I'll do the character, and I'll do this, that, and the third. You really want me to be this character, but I can't really be having my character associated with X, Y, and Z.
Then at that point, that is HBO and Sony for denying him the right to be that character and finding someone that could socialize themselves with it. Because it's like, look, at that point, you're valuing having him as Joe than Joe be Joe.
Right.
And to me, I can't get down on that. Even if he's the better Joe, which
That's Pedro Pascal, though.
I mean, get that.
The name ring bells right now, man. That's the Mandalorian, bruh.
Yeah, let's be real here. Ain't nobody knew he was the Mandalorian for like half
until he
that
stuck
show.
his face out. So listen. All right. I don't like the dude, right? I'm gonna tell you the truth, man, because I think he messed up my Mandalorian, and I wanted him off. I said, recast him. Be honest with you. He did the same thing to the Mandalorian. He want his face out. He can say, "Yo, you ain't gonna mess up my Mandalorian Disney bag. I don't want to be doing this all violence, Come on, let's keep it clean, my name is clean." I don't know, man. I think it's both. I honestly believe it's both. What do
I
you
feel
think?
you, man. You know, I'm gonna still watch it, obviously, because I gotta cover it every week. But it's just, and then they're putting like this random chick that just kills a doctor for no reason. And I'm just like, I get it, you're upset, but if you're a community leader, you would not kill one of the only doctors if the only doctor you have in the community.
I thought that was idiotic. I thought that was idiotic. Any medical trained technician, anybody that can, any engineers, any architects, we know at the end of the collapse of society, those individuals will be highly coveted. You know, those people will be protected. So I thought that was idiotic and ill-advised as a leader. I would have never killed the guy. And the fact that the guy said, "I brought you into this world, like I was your doctor, I was your," I'm like, she off a rocker, but she's off a rocker anyway because she thought it was this guy that was out there bringing in mercenaries and killing, and he had nothing to do with it. You know, that she blaming everything on this one guy. But okay, excuse me. What do
Let's.
you rate this episode, bro?
I give it a 3.
I'm with you. I thought it was the weakest out of all the episodes that they put forth. Whereas I came from a 5 from last episode. I think I gave the episode before that a 4, and I think I gave the episode before that a 4. I think this is a 3, and it could easily became a 2. Um, but we don't give halves. I'm gonna give it a 3 just because I like the team bonding and character building of the characters. We're getting to learn a little bit more about Joe. We're getting to learn a little bit more about Ellie and them, coming together as a unit. Um, they got their first confirmed kill. So I don't know, man. Like I said, it's a 3 for me, but that's the only reason why. But I think this was the weakest one out of it because I felt empty at the end of the episode.
So, off of 4 episodes, where would you get the popcorns right now?
For the whole, I will give it a 4. Off of 4 episodes, I will give it a 4. I mean, the strength of episode 3, the sticking to the script in episodes 1 and 2. I told you I was like kind of weirded out by the kiss of the weird thing that didn't make any sense to me. But this episode actually brought the score down from, it would have been like a 5, but the strength of the other 3 episodes holds it at a 4 for me.
I'm a I'm gonna give it a 3. Like,
What up,
I
Mav? He said I like the joke book. I like the joke book too. He's with the with the scarecrow standing in the field. I thought
I
that was
think
dope. Old
I
dad
think I've
joke.
just got
That
to
was
the
dope.
point with the show where it's like the Halo show. You know,
Nah,
every
bro.
week let's come
Nah, bro.
together and see this fiasco because I
Nah,
think
bro.
it's getting that
Stop
bad.
that.
Like,
Stop that.
it's
Stop
not
that.
as bad as Halo, but it's definitely getting up there. Like, it's getting like at least Halo had some form of, they're in a war with the Covenant, and you understood they was in the war with the Covenant. Like, to a point, people would forget what the hell this show's about.
One more week.
Okay, we'll see.
One more week.
Friday. You know it's Friday, right?
Oh, it's Friday?
Yes, because of the Super Bowl, they moved it from Sunday to Friday.
Oh, that's dope. All right, that's dope. Listen, my teams are not playing, so I don't care two craps about the Super Bowl. Be honest with you, my team is home and they've been home, so I root for everybody to lose. Once my team lost, everybody lose.
So that is when it comes to The Last of Us. I thought the show was okay
Yeah,
this week, but I don't feel like it feels like the last of it. It feels like a generic zombie
I
apocalypse
gotta
show.
find out because what I'm trying to do is I want to find out what's the show that I wanted you to watch, and